Parents have control over every aspect of their children's lives. They get to decide what they wear, what they eat, what they watch, what school they will attend, and many more important decisions. If parents are allowed to choose such important aspects of their children's lives, why shouldn't they be allowed to choose the books their children read? Books can have a big impact on children's lives, and they can influence them. The same way parents control the television shows their children are allowed to watch, they are allowed to control the books they read. Moreover, when entire societies decide to ban some books because they don't agree with their values, people don't create a debate out of it. It becomes a norm. Why should it be any different when parents choose what is best for their children? Even if it is on an individual scale, parents should be allowed to teach their children what they think is right, since they hold a position of authority over them. For these reasons, I believe that parents or other adults should be allowed to ban some books from school libraries.
Several books have been banned in school and teaching establishments for many reasons. Some of these reasons include delicate themes such as sexuality, drugs and other addictions, religion, and many more. Many of those books are no longer banned, and we can say, having read several of them, that these books are perfectly appropriate. Books like Animal Farm, To Kill a Mockingbird, or The Catcher in the Rye are three books that have received bad reviews from many parents because of their controversial topics. Even though these books abort sensitive topics like sex, drugs, prostitution, or even religion, they still manage to teach us lessons about life and should all deserve their place in our libraries. These books, with most of them being acknowledged as classic nowadays, are famous, adored, and taught in our schools for several reasons. They have endured the test of time and are still being read by young people all around the world. However, to this day, some parents choose to ban certain books from school and libraries, which in our opinion is a very bad idea.
Sometimes a certain book is banned by the parents because their religion, political view, or ethnicity is being offended in a way. Some parents might not want their children reading books such as The Kite Runner or A Thousand Splendid Suns because they don't want their children to know some of the violence that goes on in other countries such as Afghanistan or in other religions such as Islam. Some of these themes include rape, stoning, sexism, etc. They are protecting their children from values and ideas they don't want them to learn and do not condone. Some of them don't want their children reading the Diary of Anne Frank because they either don't believe that the Holocaust happened, because they don't think that the Holocaust was necessarily bad, or simply because they do not want their young children reading about such atrocities committed in times of war. As for the ethnicity, some parents think that reading books that degrade their ethnicity is a bad idea. For example, in the classic To Kill a Mockingbird, the word nigger is used more than 50 times and is not really used today unless the person who says it voluntarily wants to be racist and degrading to black people. They might find their children too young to hear such horrendous insults and in a way are protecting them.
Reading books and gaining knowledge about other people's religion or cultural practices can only be good for the child who is learning things his parents don't want to teach him. No parents can teach everything to their children, particularly regarding other religions. Parents are not all-knowing people. Saying that they are protecting their children by not letting them read about topics that aren't considered positive isn't a valid argument, since the children are going to learn about these topics in other contexts or with their friends. Some of these subjects include the Holocaust and the segregations. Indeed, forbidding them to read such books is simply a useless waste of time. Letting them read books about other ethnicities, religion, and cultures will help them have an open mind and understand other people better.
By reading books, children can understand the world in which they live in, or even understand how the world was back in the days. With books, they can learn from mistakes and make sure not to redo them. It can only give them more information about a topic, whether that topic be good or bad. Reading books, articles, or encyclopedias about racism, wars, rape, or even prostitution is first of all a way of informing people in the same way as a radio or television show. By banning books, we are allowing parents to also ban or control what is happening on television or on the radio. Let's not forget how people used to burn books that didn't share the opinions of the church or the Third Reich. Many authors wrote about the importance of books and why we shouldn't ban them, like Marcus Zusak in his book, The Book of Thieves. Furthermore, even though the reader doesn't agree with the author's point of view regarding delicate subjects, this challenged the reader to develop a critical mind. Reading good books will not ensure a good education, and by refusing to make children read certain books, the ability to think critically can lack from their education. For example, people should be encouraged to read about different cultures and religion. A study in basics and applied social psychology found that people who read a story about Muslim women were less likely to make broad judgment based on race. This is why, by letting children read whatever book they want, stereotypes could eventually end.
Children are easily influenceable, and having some sensitive books present at an arm's reach can sometimes harm them. For example, the book Mein Kampf can be found in some school libraries. Some parents do not want their children reading this book because they don't want them to be influenced by Adolf Hitler's words. According to Adam Gopnik, an editor for The New Yorker, Mein Kampf is a book intended, after all, to attract fanatical followers to a fanatical cause, would seem to be more unsettling than seductive. Another example of that would be the bad influence the Twilight series has had on children and teenagers. In 2010, Paula Hernandez, a then 15-year-old student, said that her boyfriend wanted to bite her to show her that he loved her. Some of her classmates had even gone as far as cutting their skin in order to suck each other's blood and have vampire marks. Such behavior can sometimes lead to illnesses, infections, and in some cases, they can lead to having HIV.
Kids want to read books that are relatable and are representative of their reality. Books are more than the swear words in them. They have an idea, an essence to them far bigger than the words used to express them. Banned books are usually written with several bad words, which is why parents do not want their children to learn such a bad vocabulary from these books. However, books are a lot more than the bad words. According to procon.org, and I quote, "Young people may find a character going through exactly what they are, which make it a powerful reading experience and helps the reader sort out thorny issues like grief, divorce, sexual assault, bullying, prejudice, and sexual identity." Also, according to McMahon, these themes contemplate morality and vast aspects of the human condition, build empathy for people unlike them, and possibly discover a mirror of their own experience.
Some children aren't mature enough to read some books that are studied in school. For example, some schools have put the book The Perks of Being a Wallflower on their reading lists. This book discusses topics such as sexual assault, domestic abuse, sexual identity, suicide, and other touchy themes that some children are simply not ready to read and even less ready to comprehend. Sometimes, reading about these themes can trigger trauma in young readers who have undergone similar experiences, according to Jas Chana. That doesn't mean that these books should be banned forever, but should instead be read once the children are older. From my own experience, I know that some kids in my class didn't take the book The Catcher in the Rye too seriously and didn't care about important topics such as family laws, sexual assault, etc. But they tended to focus more on the storylines that included Holden's dropping out of school or his hiring of a prostitute. Maybe if these books were read once the students were older and could truly grasp the meaning of the book, then it would be a better read for the student and for the teacher. Parents could trust their children's judgments. Until then, them wanting these books banned for their children's well-being is understandable.
In Stetson's University, psychologist Christopher Ferguson thinks that parents shouldn't worry that much about what their children are reading. He says they should be happy that their children are reading, considering that most kids are not. Ferguson doesn't think that reading Divergent is going to cause violent behavior, and reading Twilight is going to make someone have sex with a vampire. Kids are not that much influenced by books, and parents should not worry about what was pre-existing.
As previously mentioned, several studies have shown that children are indeed influenced by the books they read. Twilight is known for the big influence it had on teenagers and children who read the books. There are several other examples that show how some teenagers' attitudes can resonate with the material they have read. Indeed, Karen Coates, a professor of English at Illinois State University who integrates neuroscience into her research, stated in a conference that Twilight is having a massive effect on teenagers and their attitudes. She explains how the plot of the book can damage young readers, and it can be explained through the brain's neuroscience. Quoting, "If young people read books where there is no hope at all, it's really damaging. We need to be aware of young people being influenced by what they read or watch, the games they play. It all plays a very important role." What we have learned over the past decade is that the teenage brain processes information differently than a more mature brain. Brain imaging shows that teens are more likely to respond to situations emotionally, and they are less likely to consider consequences through rational forethought. In conclusion, parents and other adults in a position of authority have the right to ban books from their children's school libraries. First of all, they want to teach some values and life lessons to their children and don't necessarily want them learning about others. Some themes are not deemed okay by some parents for their violent or shocking nature. The same way some teachers get to decide on books the children are going to read throughout the school year, parents should have the right to decide as well. Once the children are older and capable of choosing their own books according to their personal taste, then a ban wouldn't be necessary. But until then, parents are allowed to monitor their children's readings.
To conclude, books shouldn't be banned for any reasons because kids and teenagers have the right to learn about things even if their parents and teachers don't think it's a good idea. It is always better to know things than to be ignorant. Even if some topics are more delicate and talking about them is frowned upon, it is precisely by reading them that you become more mature and learn more about the world. That being said, even the best known and most loved books, like Harry Potter, have already received complaints because of witchcraft, which is more or less accepted by some people. Many fans, including ourselves, cannot imagine a world without these series.